Hey there. You know, I feel like I've been needing to improve myself lately, so I went out and bought this Build Yourself a Better Life Lego set. Well, that cost me $89.99 and I'm still a fucking loser. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the greatest worldwide phenomenon ever known to humankind. Plastic. I don't really know what I need to say about Lego. It's so unanimously recognised and beloved, despite having to financially cripple yourself to buy some. Who needs food anyway? The simplicity of how it works has just given it this endearing charm and appeal to so many people. So much so that Lego has grown into its own all-encompassing brand at this point, with products way beyond the bricks themselves. And one night I can only assume someone from Lego was just chilling, being Danish, playing Dig Dug and said, shit, we need to get in on this. Lego video games are an all too familiar concept nowadays. Ever since Lego Star Wars in 2005, Traveller's Tales had a winning formula with their co-op-centered action-adventure style. So then they made the exact same game for 16 more years. However, all these ain't shit. You come to me chatting about Lego video games, there's only one thing my mind races to first. Prior to 2005, when TT Games became the main Lego video game developers, there was a glorious era when Lego themselves published games under their own license, Lego Software, then later Lego Media. All the games produced under this banner by a smattering of different developers were all based on Lego's own original properties and toy sets at the time. Lego Racers, Stunt Rally, Creator, Loco, Rock Raiders, Lego Land, what a legendary lineup. All of these games made up a huge portion of my childhood PC gaming experiences and are all deeply nostalgic for me. Especially with that intro where the Lego logo builds itself. Oh, it makes me coom. However, all legends have their beginnings, and where did this golden era of Lego gaming stem from? Yes, of course, I am referring to Lego Fun to Build on the Sega Pico. However, the Sega Pico can eat my ass. No, obviously, what most would consider the true first Lego game is 1997's Lego Island for Windows PCs. Developed by Mindscape, the little action-adventure title was a smash hit for Lego and would go on to spawn 2 sequels. Much like the rest of the Lego games of the period, all 3 of these are nostalgia fuel for me, and the series became somewhat of a central pillar for this generation of Lego titles. So recently, as I stepped on a Lego brick and went, fuck! It gave me a desire to relive this bizarre little trilogy and see how much its nostalgic charm holds up today. Starting, of course, with the original. Now, this can be a bit of a bitch to get running on modern operating systems. However, thanks to some tutorials and a bit of tinkering, I managed to get it going. We're greeted with that classic Lego sequence and are given a brief yet frantic intro cutscene giving us a flavour for what we're getting ourselves into.
Hello! Hola! Welcome!
Get it away! Get it away! The power of Christ compels you! So this absolute crack gremlin here is the Infomaniac, who is, worryingly enough, the creator of Lego Island and our guide for the game. We begin in the Information Center, where we're told what we can do and how in order to explore the island we need to possess the soul of one of 5 inhabitants. There's Mama and Papa Briccolini, their adoptive son Pepperoni. What cruel-ass parents are they to call their son that? And then finally, there's the Popo. I'm gonna choose Pepper for now, since he's the only character that you can access all the game's content with. So now with that, we can go out and explore the island. Oh dear God. Okay, before I do that, I gotta get used to these controls. Now, you mainly look around with the mouse and click on things to interact with them, but then we move around with the arrow keys. Yeah, it's really sensitive and jarring, but I just gotta get used to it, I guess. So now we're free to explore the island, with the one exception being that we can't go on grass. Fuck you, I like grass. There's not so much of an objective in Lego Island, at least not immediately. The gameplay mostly consists of a small selection of minigame type things and exploring the island, going into buildings and building vehicles. So as you can imagine, quite the deep and intensive gameplay experience we have here. I began by entering the police station to build the tackiest helicopter I could, and gave a quick visit to the jail to visit the island's resident criminal, the Brickster. Okay, well, I say it's a jail, though I feel like this kinda defeats the purpose. I mean, then again, infrastructure isn't really this island's forte, seeing as the Infomaniac just went fuck it and slapped a building in the middle of the road. So my tour of the island first takes me to the hospital. However, they have a situation where their drivers aren't available, so the doctor thinks it's a good idea to give Pepper the keys to the ambulance? Sure. Our first emergency is a man stuck on the roof about to fall to his death at any moment. As you can tell, a very serious situation. Our second port of call is a man choking at the pizzeria. I'll get round to him in a sec, I'm just a bit busy at the moment. So it turns out he, you know, as you do, was choking on a shark, which in turn was choking on a dog, who was choking on a cat, who is choking on a bird who makes a wise-ass quip at me.
Oh, so that's why this is included.
So moving on from whatever that was, I stumble into this scary-ass cave, so scary that it manifests a bike lady right before my eyes. There's not much going on here except for this door with a ghost pirate behind it who gives you some hints and tips. He tells me of an easier way to move around by pressing the shift key to enter the easy to drive mode. It's okay, I guess, it just means you can move around using the mouse, but it's still not perfect. Okay, so I guess I'll just make my way back to the more populated area of the island and, Okay, it should have been immediate from the get-go with the physical incarnation of cocaine here that this game is utter insanity. Not just the sense of humor, but everything in general is like having a stroke while faced first in a box of Lego. The visual gags, the characters, the dialogue, the animations, it's all insanely fast, frantic, in your face, and just strange. But I kinda like it. As psychotic as it all is, it does give the game a very fun charm, and I suppose it's the main thing that people really remember about this game. It genuinely does give the whole game a very memorable, quirky identity. I take it back, I want to leave. And nowhere is this bizarre tone more apparent than in the jet ski race I took part in. The jittery movement really does not work well for a fast-paced race. I can barely tell where I'm going for the most part. My opponent is having a fit, there's sharks all over the goddamn shop, it's a mess. There is another race you can do, however, and I'm willing to bet that it's probably the most memorable part of the game for most who played it. So you build a race car and get to race around this absolutely chaotic track. It's at least way more manageable than the jet ski race, but is just as mental in its design, definitely the standout of the game for me. Now, earlier when I said that there's not a main objective as such, well, there sort of is. There is a brief mission which results in an ending cutscene, so I guess it can be counted as a main story. However, in order to access it, there are a couple prerequisites. You firstly need to have built the helicopter and need to be playing as Pepper to activate it. So once you've got all that done, you need to head down to the pizzeria. And we get a call stating that we have to deliver a pizza to the jail, which already sounds like a terrible idea to begin with. And I'm proven right, since as soon as we get there, it turns out Pepper is a complete dumbass. He just lets the Brickster take the pizza, who then uses said pizza, you know, the one that Pepper held in his bare hand not 2 seconds ago, to just melt the jail door lock with its spicy fumes. What? So he then rightfully mocks us for being the fucking moron that we are, takes the helicopter and steals the power brick from atop the information center. And that's bad apparently, and then he just buggers off to commit arson, I don't know. The rest of the characters arrive and the police decide that the best course of action, despite them being, you know, the police, is to let Pepper deal with the situation. So we track the Brickster down to the residential area as he deconstructs the island's buildings. We have to follow him around and pick up the helicopter pieces he drops behind him, and then he goes into this cave. And instead of, you know, logically going after him, we're told to explore the island to find the remaining helicopter pieces. You know, I think this police department may genuinely have the mental capacity of plastic. So then we track down the last parts of the helicopter to rebuild it, leading us to the last part of this. Yes, it really is that short. So for this final part, we're in the helicopter as the Brickster is going round deconstructing more buildings and the police are trying to catch him. Our job is to fire pizzas at the Brickster to slow him down and donuts at the cops to speed them up to help catch up to him. Now that may sound simple in theory, right? No. The AI here is just bumfuck broken. It's so infuriating. Both the cops and the Brickster mainly ignore all the stuff I throw and they keep getting stuck all the time, or they just wander around aimlessly. I have no words. Like here, when they're about to close in on him and he tries to get away, instead of following him, they just turn away. What are you doing? The AI on these cops was so bad that the Brickster just deconstructed the whole island and I got the bad ending. Sick. Nice job. So, because of that, I had to quickly restart, go through all this shit again, and by some godforsaken miracle, I managed to sandwich the Brickster here and got the good ending. Ugh. Lego Island is an absolute fever dream from start to end, but I mean that in a pleasant way. Kind of. Gameplay-wise, it is very lacking and not really that great, but I mean, it is a game directed to kids after all, and it was Lego's first stab at this. And I think they more than make up for it with the bucket loads of charm and character to it all. Yeah, it's batshit crazy, but it's by far the most memorable element of the whole game. However, despite some vague nostalgia for it, I still find it difficult to come back to. On top of the bare bones gameplay, it really does show its age in the mechanics and controls. It's jank as fuck. And it can just be a pain to get it running on modern PCs anyway, so I guess you could just sniff some ketamine, it will probably yield a similar experience. Regardless, when it launched in 1997, it was a big hit for Lego, selling over 1 million copies and becoming an iconic game for many kids who grew up playing it. And with that great success, the developers at Mindscape decided to celebrate by being fired. Oh, yeah, so apparently it was the norm for Mindscape that their employees would receive a bonus when one of their games was released as a sort of job well done sort of thing. However, according to the game's producer, Wes Jenkins, right before the game was released, he and the rest of the development team were given the sack, which Jenkins assumed was a way for the company to avoid having them to pay said bonus. So yeah, a massive backhanded smack in the face, especially considering how well the game did. And because of its success, Lego wanted to do a sequel, but of course Mindscape were obviously not going to be involved this time round. So instead they turned to Silicon Dreams, a developer best known for football games. Oh dear. So 4 years after the original, in March 2001, Lego Island 2 The Brickster's Revenge was released for Windows PCs, PlayStation and Game Boy Color, with a GBA release later on down the line. We begin with a cutscene re-establishing the status quo. Pepper is still living a miserable bricky existence delivering pizzas, and straight after being thrown back in jail, the Brickster is already planning to escape again via the same pizza-based methods. And to be honest, they were dumb enough to allow it to happen once. I wouldn't blame him for trying again. As we begin the game, we're given a hearty slap in the face of what a new developer means. So this time around, the game is in the third person, with an entirely different control and movement style. Pepper can now also jump, throw pizzas, whip out his skateboard at any time, swim, and can now walk on the grass.
It's about fucking time!
Though the movement is still stiff, jittery, and rather restrictive overall, so it's not great, but it's a mile ahead of the first game. So from the get-go, we have an entirely different island to explore, with most of the same characters and locations, but just a different layout. I can drive, boat, fly, drive some more, dox people, screw physics, kill myself. As I must emphasize once again, quite the extensive gameplay formula we have. So anyway, our first proper objective is to deliver pizzas, as we will receive our new house in return.
I love capitalism.
So let's go meet these wonderful house-giving people.
Pepper, I haven't forgotten your chili surprise.
I hate them already.
Pepper's pizza makes me dribble.
Gross. Yeah, voice acting isn't really a stellar thing in this game, especially from Pepper himself.
Greetings, Valerie Stubbins. Pepper coming at ya.
Like, could you have chosen a more annoying and obnoxious voice? So we go around doing our shitty, unfulfilling job and go see our new house. However, we are called back to the pizzeria for one more delivery. And despite the fact that this is what caused all hell to break loose last time, these three dumbasses think it's still a good idea to send another pizza to the Brickster in jail. And without even second guessing themselves, they just go ahead and do it. Even the police do not give a toss. So we give the pizza to the Brickster, and he has apparently amassed so many chilies that he just breathes fire. Yes, seriously. And shock, he melts the locks, escapes, steals the helicopter, goes to the information center, and steals an item of importance and commits Lego homicide again. This time he steals the Constructopedia and rips the pages out of it, causing all the buildings on the island to deconstruct. Then he summons his henchmen, the Bricksterbots, to run rabid while he buggers off. So pretty much from the get-go, we're thrusted into a linear storyline for the rest of the game. With everything gone tits up, the Infomaniac deduces that the best person to fix all this is the moron who caused it all.
Pepper, what are you doing?
My best.
We are so fucked. So now we have to go around the island and find some of the missing pages while hunting down and fighting the Brixterbots. It's hardly difficult as the pages are just lying in plain sight and the Brixterbots are easily defeated by a mere pizza. So we're then called back to the information center to deal with the Brixterbot heads in this whack-a-mole style minigame, which would be a hell of a lot easier if the Infomaniac just didn't stick himself in there as well.
Hit the naughty bots, but don't hit me by accident.
Why are you in there then? Afterwards we get an SOS from Castle Island where the Brixter has destroyed the bridge so they can't wage war anymore, leading to perhaps the only funny line in the game.
And the neighbors can't battle at all.
The horror.
So we get on a boat to Castle Island and upon arrival we help them rebuild their bridge in yet another minigame. And get used to this because these minigames are what comprises most of the gameplay. In this minigame we simply have to dive down and recover the bridge pieces so that we can rebuild it so that they can battle again. Hooray, I've incited war!
I'm putting that on the old CV.
There's also a page to collect that's being used as a flag, and to win it back we need to complete a jousting minigame. All this consists of is giving your keyboard a series of rapid continuous aneurysms to build up power and then guide the target to hit the knight. Rinse and repeat 3 times. This is pain. Before we can get our page, however, this prick comes along and steals it, leading to a sort of boss fight minigame where we have to do a cannon battle against him. After that, we return to Lego Island, and I guess while I was gone, everyone else was just jacking off or something because it seems like they've done fuck all to help out with the situation. So we have to do some more Brixterbot hunting and page finding, and it's here where I feel the need to point out just how dull this game really is. Despite the more action-adventure oriented exploration style, the game doesn't really do a whole lot with it. Aside from really slow, boring and repetitive exploration as a way to fill gaps between these really lackluster minigames that just have no substance. They're extremely basic one-and-done ideas that last no more than a couple minutes at the most. They're not fun or entertaining, they're just boring and forgettable with nothing to them at all. Anyway, we persevere and head on to Adventures Island to find more pages. When we get there, we meet some adventurers, Johnny Thunder and Pippin Reed, who state if we help them, they'll help us. Leading to, what else? A padded, dull and tedious minigame. We have to stop snakes from reaching us, and all you have to do is move the target left to right and spray and you'll be fine, but my god does this one drag. We then come across Dr. Kilroy with a wonderfully ear-grating voice.
Hello, Johnny and Miss Reed. I see you brought a friend.
Though not to be outdone, Pepper once again reminds us how much of an obnoxious prick he is.
Pepperoni!
Oh my god, shut it, you pizza-shifting, brain-dead, illiterate fuck. We then do another whack-a-mole style minigame with one extra mechanic in a vague hope of keeping my attention for more than 10 seconds. The adventurers then piss off, so much for helping us, and leave us to do a couple more minigames. We have to solve a basic matchmaking puzzle, drive across the desert with some of the stiffest driving controls I've ever experienced, and then some fishing. This creepy fisherman weirdo tells us that a fish ate our page and that we need to fish to get it back. Now, this could be a nice slow game about patience, much like real fishing as I build up to catching the big fish. However, the big fish was the first one I caught, making the minigame last all but 45 seconds. At least the game was being merciful. So we meet back with the adventurers only to do the worst minigame yet, this stupid ass biplane. You have to simply make it to the end of the level, but you move so slow and need to constantly pick up fuel or you'll quickly run out and fail the mission. You're also meant to be hitting these targets with bananas, but I just keep getting abused by these monkeys throwing shit at me. What do I do here? The workaround I found is to just keep crashing your plane into the walls to thrust you forward to allow you to move more quickly. This is utter bollocks. Once we reach the jungle, we do a fairly standard minigame while riding this T-Rex and then go on to another kinda sorta not a boss fight thing. Some other asshole called Mr. Hate has our page and a ton of dinosaurs in captivity that we have to save. Again, a fairly slow and boring minigame, though I did get stuck so I had to start this shit again. Great. When we get back to the island once Once more, the Brickster bots invade again, and the Brickster rocks up, having kidnapped Mama and Papa Briccolini to take them to his base on the planet Ogle. So once again, we have to find more pages and fight more Brickster bots. I'm having a whale of a time, can you tell? Except this time we have to beat them with music, meaning we have to find one, wait by them for a while until we can collect them, only making things more tedious and taking up more time.
That's fine, I can eat, breathe, and exist later.
So now to prepare to go into space, we have to do some more minigames. There's this centrifuge one, which I honestly don't understand how it works. I just press buttons until I win. Yay. Then we do a parachute training minigame, and this one, truth be told, was alright. Easily the best minigame so far, though that's not saying much. So after roughly 5 thorough minutes of space training, we're ready to blast off to go to Ogle. We guide our way through an asteroid belt, but the Brickster has stolen the landing gear apparently, so we have to do another parachute minigame to get onto the planet's surface. We help Mama and Papa make some pizzas in zero gravity. This seems like a horrendously impractical way of doing this, before finally making it to the final minigame, the Brickster's Palace. We have to do some jank-ass platforming to get to the top, and then to defeat the Brickster, we pelt him with pizzas, and everything is nice now, except that this game made me brain dead.
And that is Lego Island 2, and while it's not a good game, actually that's about it.
The first game may have been rather basic, but at least it knew what its gameplay style was and stuck to it. It focuses on that style and is at least consistent and is brimming with charm to help out as well. Lego Island 2's style of forcing you into a linear story with dire minigames makes for a game that half the time is a boring, tedious and repetitive finicky slog, and for the other half is just throwing half-baked shit at the wall constantly in a vain hope of something sticking. And in the place of a wacky and energized charm is just jilted, ugly obnoxiousness. It's not utterly horrible, I can live with it, then again I can say the same thing about herpes. I guess for being a kids game, it's not too awful since kids have the attention span of a goldfish, so probably don't mind a different gameplay style being shoved in there constantly. I liked Lego Island 2 as a kid, but going back to it now, God, it's just naff. I mean, hey, it could be worse though, you could be playing the PS1 version.
Listen, I've got good news and I've got better news. Which would you like to hear first?
I'm all ears.
Just looking at this gave me whiplash. The game wasn't as successful as the original, I'm shocked. However, despite this, LEGO persevered and even got Silicon Dreams back to develop a third entry into the series. However, things had to change. It was the early 2000s now, this shit didn't fly, it was all about style, and apparently extreme sports and stunts were all the rage. No more of this kid stuff, it was all about that cool shit. So Lego Island followed suit with their third game, dropping the Lego name altogether and calling itself Island Extreme Stunts, spelt with an X, cause of course. The story here is that a new action film called, get this, Extreme Stunts is being filmed on Lego Island, and Pepper is the leading actor and stuntman. And we're just thrown right into the action as we are about to perform our first spectacular stunt. I think a tumbleweed just blew out my arsehole. The director is still impressed though, so we crack on. However, it's important to note that our co-star in this movie is none other than the Brickster, who has apparently just been let out of jail to star in the movie as its villain. And despite committing attempted Lego genocide twice in a row now, everyone's just all cool with him now. What? Anyway, we're thrown directly into our first scene, called Freeway Frenzy. The idea here is to chase down the Brickster and ram into him to destroy his car, utilizing some power-ups to help us deal more damage, catch up with him, and clear obstacles. You get the idea. After that, we win our first award, and the Brickster seems to be annoyed that he didn't win. We're making a film, mate, that's not the point. So now we're free to explore the island before moving on to our next scene, and the gameplay this time around is kind of a mix of the other two games. Aside from Freeway Frenzy, there's 4 other scenes that we can film that kinda act like the minigames from the second game, only this time with way more substance. And in between those, we get to freely roam the island, and it's made tons better by the vastly improved controls. It's kind of the same mechanics as Lego Island 2's exploration gameplay, with most of the same moves as last time, but it's way more zippy, smoother and fluent. Pepper just feels way more agile here, here. And the skateboarding has even been given some light depth with tricks and moves that you can perform. Exploring the island in general is just way more fleshed out and is much more of a focus this time round. The layout is also vastly improved, albeit sometimes strangely sparse, but there's a whole lot more to do compared to the previous games. For example, before you can drive most vehicles, you have to pass tests, which I am an absolute boss at, but there's also side missions to complete where you just help the islanders, deliver things, compete in races. There's a couple of mini-games to play and a ton of these collectible red bricks and gold bricks to find to build these little animals around the island. Okay, yeah, it's not quite GTA levels of freedom, I can't just go curb stop someone, though that would be nice in this game. It still gives the game much more variety and replay value than the other games ever did, and gives you more of a reason to just explore the island. It's also greatly relieving, since Pepper has since taken some lessons in shutting the fuck up and is mostly a mute for the entire game, thank God. Though it does kinda highlight how far we've deviated with the character and tone from the previous games. The series at this point has very much gone away from the wacky glue-sniffing tone of the original, and while here it's thankfully not as aggravatingly annoying as the second game, it's just rather grounded and a bit flat in regards to personality. While most of the previous games' characters are back, most don't even get a look in. Hell, the Infomaniac is barely anywhere to be seen unless you go and find him directly. It's not bad, it's just that a big part of what I think made people enjoy the original was the character and charm. But hey, that's not what we care about, it's all about the stunts, innit? Now see this shit here, this is what the people want apparently, so let's move on to the actual stunt scenes themselves. After Freeway Frenzy, we can do Motorbike Mayhem, a side-on race against the Brickster on tricycles. The main thing we have to do here is do stunts while in mid-air to maintain speed and wheelie over obstacles. And you better get good at this, since one or two mistakes could just cost you the entire race. This is mainly because the hitboxes are really finicky, the Brickster catches up really quickly, and recovering can be a real pain. Next up after this is Wave Catcher, with a distinct lack of waves to catch.
I'm not angry, I'm just fucking disappointed!
This is another race, but this time on a jet ski, with a similar principle of performing stunts in mid-air to get a speed boost. It controls well enough, though you can cheese this one quite easily since you can just cut some corners. However, while all the filming for the movie is going on, the police are keeping an eye on the Brickster since they do not trust him, you don't say. With each new scene you film, you get to solve a little slide puzzle which reveals evidence that the Brickster is up to no good. And despite very clearly trying to assassinate me with a studio lamp, Nick Brick's like, yeah, I don't know, I'm not convinced. See, having a police force like this is why fucked up shit keeps happening. So, moving on from that, our fourth scene is Air Chase, definitely my least favourite of the stunt scenes. This is basically like Freeway Frenzy, but in the air, we have to ram the Brickster's plane and grind it to pieces with our propeller. However, you have to keep pulling back to get more fuel and plane parts, it's just kind of boring honestly. But the final one, Ripcord Rescue, is easily my favourite, since it's essentially just like the only good minigame from Lego Island 2, except with a bit more to it. We have to save these people in the rings on your way down and perform stunts while trying to get through as many rings as possible. These stunt minigames are okay, I guess, but for being the main focus of the game though, they're nothing special. Again, like the second game, these minigames are just rather brief and boring for the most part. I mean, hell, they're way better than the second games, that's for sure, though. I mean, that would have been impressive if they somehow managed to make it worse, but there's still nothing too exciting, they're just fine, they do the job I guess. It also doesn't help that you have to replay most of them for a silver and gold award as well, which either just adds more obstacles or makes the minigames drag on for longer, just making it tedious. So after wrapping on the movie, we have a celebration, and the Brickster wants to make an announcement saying, hey guys, basically Lego Homicide 3.0. Yeah, shock, the Brickster reveals the movie was just a cover and he's really planning to take over the island again, not that we could have seen any of this coming of course. Oh yeah, and he's also secretly been building a big fuck-off tower that no one noticed apparently. So in this final segment, we race over to the mountain base and scale it in an honestly rather well done sequence that utilizes the platforming and skateboarding mechanics rather well. And after this Donkey Kong-esque section, we face off in an honestly rather easy boss fight against him, and once he's defeated, we get our ending.
Brickster, it's either best behavior or you're back behind bars.
Why are you giving him a chance, you fucking numpty? He just tried to kill you all for the third time in a row!
Wow! No way! I'm just gonna make a bigger and better plan for next time.
Oh, of course he chooses jail. I mean, he'll probably just end up escaping again. So now we actually get to watch the movie we've been making, and oh look, he's already out. Nice, sick prison facilities you got there. So the plot of the movie isn't even really that discernible either. It just starts off with the Brickster being evil, committing tax fraud or something, I don't know. He then kidnaps a scientist, and oh yeah, Pepper's nearby, so a montage of chase sequences. And Pepper's actually doing better acting watching the movie, reacting as if he wasn't in it. He bungee jumps into a building, blows it up, the end. Nice film, guys. All that work for the spectacle of a pound store Fast and Furious film. And that is Lego Island Extreme Stunts. What I can at least say is probably the best game in the series. While it has the rather mediocre minigame style stunt scenes, it makes up for it by giving us the best version of what this series does best. Just letting you explore the island, mess around, and having fun. It is kinda weird looking back at this trilogy, seeing how much it diverges as it goes on. The first game, for as flimsy and dated as it is, still has a very enjoyable and charming style to it that brims with character. The second game ditches that in favour of a linear series of minigames that really don't provide anything worthwhile, definitely sticking out as the black sheep of the series. The third game tries to mix the gameplay of both of its predecessors to a fairly decent effect, giving albeit rather middling minigames, though it at least shows an attempt to focus on a select few improved ones, and it definitely gives us the best iteration of the island to explore, with much better controls and plenty to do, easily making it the one I can come back to the most. Honestly, being real with ourselves, this isn't a trilogy that comes across as quality. This is overall a very average series of games. However, there is just something unmistakably charming about them. Even at its worst, this series just has this bizarre nature that is wonderfully intriguing. I would be lying if I said that it wasn't obvious why this series, especially the first one, has struck a chord with people. Many grew up just enjoying the fun characters and exploring the island, myself included. The series felt like such a linchpin of the Lego media era of games, and despite not being anything special from a gameplay perspective, these games will always remain a nostalgic staple of mine and many others' childhoods. And Lego Island's legacy will continue to live on, thanks to the efforts of some dedicated fans. Allow me to draw your attention to Project Island, a still in development fan-made sequel to the original trilogy, hoping to create a faithful game that, from what I understand, will utilize elements from all three games, and even has some involvement from people who worked on the original games themselves. I discovered the project a couple of years ago, and I'd highly recommend giving it a look if you're a fan of the series or even the classic Lego games. And I believe they're always looking for new talent to help develop the game, so if that interests you, do check it out. I'll link the details of this project in the description below.
Well, after amassing a painful amount of debt via plastic bricks didn't solve my life problems, I guess I'll have to settle for the second best thing. Therapy.
So, despite owning the PC version of Lego Island 2, you also bought the PS1 version as well?
Yeah.
I'm diagnosing you with insanity.
Oh. Nice.